Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Forbes India presents Future of Cybersecurity, powered by Trend Micro.
The COVID-19 pandemic has catalyzed digital transformation for businesses, pushed citizens to use technology in all walks of life, and even has global political leaders interacting with each other using virtual collaboration. While this all-pervasive use of technology has indeed kept us afloat through the pandemic, it has also opened up doors to increased risks of cybersecurity threats, data thefts, data breaches, etc. And that's what we are here to talk about. Hello and welcome to Forbes India Presents The Future of Cybersecurity, powered by Trend Micro. I'm Vidhu Bhandari. And I'm joined by a set of eminent industry stalwarts here today to discuss the future of cybersecurity. Let me welcome them. I have with me Nilesh Jain, Vice President, Southeast Asia and India at Trend Micro; Ravinder Pal Singh, Chief Information and Innovation Officer at Vistara; and Shubhajit Dev, Global CISO at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Cyber crimes have been surging through the pandemic. In fact, India's National Cybersecurity Coordinator recently mentioned that since the onset of COVID-19, there has been at least a 50% surge in global cyber crimes. So, Nilesh, let me begin with you. I want you to set the context for us for this conversation. What are some of the emerging trends that you are seeing as far as cyber crimes are concerned, in terms of their uniqueness, in terms of their sophistication, and in fact, the number of cyber crimes, also as mentioned by the Cybersecurity Coordinator of India?
Thanks, Mridu. Thanks for having me here. You are right, actually. Since March till now, after this lockdown started, particularly in India, we have seen surge in a lot of cyber attacks. And one of the most attack that we have seen is attack starting from the employees who are working from home, because these are the employees who are not used to work from home. They started using their unmanaged devices, their home devices, and that has given additional surface for attackers to start getting into organization. So number one attack that we have seen, the ransomware. We have started seeing ransomware. Earlier we used to see ransomware attacks limited to manufacturing and little bit in FSI vertical, but now we have seen a lot of attacks across all the vertical. We have heard a lot of news about ransomware, not only in India, outside India. We have seen around 77% growth in ransomware attack in last 3 to 4 months. That's our internal Trend Micro reports. Second most attack, and that is going to be surprising number for you. We have seen 300% increase in phishing attacks across the globe. And India also, we are seeing pretty much targeted phishing attacks coming from email. So the other two attacks that we are seeing. And third attack we have seen is most of the public cloud. Suddenly the surge of cloud adoption has increased, and we have seen attacks happening on those people who are using cloud. So the three attacks vector that we have seen across India right now.
Right, 300% increase in phishing attacks. Wow, that's an astounding number. Shubhajit, if I can bring you in, like Nilesh mentioned, the pandemic has forced global organizations to enable remote working at scale. At Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, what has that experience been like? How challenging has this whole, last couple of months been on the cybersecurity front? And right now, what are the current big challenges that you're dealing with?
Well, I think the pandemic has been a boon in a disguise. This has really been the litmus test for not only us, but many other organizations. This is where you actually put your BCP and disaster recovery plans to a test. And there was no other option but to come out clean, unscathed, because it was the need of the hour. I think there are significant changes in which organizations have been doing business. Specifically for us, we had to very clearly classify our employees who needs access to equipments and information, and of course the second set of employees are the ones who needs access to information, and that's how we have kind of divided our strategy for entire IT. Digital transformation was a key initiative in the organization for a couple of years as well. And that has been the reason why we've been able to sail through with no disruption whatsoever. But largely, I think across the industry, what has significantly been changed is the way we are doing business right now. Specifically, it's a cyber everywhere mindset. We are living in, and it's going to increase more and more. It's a digitally connected world, and with that, the vulnerability quotient also increases. We are seeing rapid digital transformation. The rate of adoption has been definitely accelerated, and most importantly, the traditional perimeters are now shattered. So there is no distinction between intranet versus internet. The accessibility is open to all. Bring your own devices has kind of broken the barrier of doing a managed devices control versus an unmanaged device. So it's a quagmire of several things put together. But I think, in spite of all of these, it has kind of brought immense possibilities to innovate, and we are seeing that as we are moving. We've been able to bring in the customer engagement, percentage to a very high degree, employee engagement to a very high degree as well. Overall, I think this was a boon in disguise. But there's a lot to learn from this pandemic. That's for sure.
Right, right. And we are going to come to those lessons in just a bit. But let me also bring in Ravinder Pal Singh. Ravi, as both Nilesh and Shubhajit mentioned, large scale organizations have really worked overtime to sort of enable remote working. At the same time, cyber criminals have also been working overtime to stay ahead and take advantage of the pandemic. So, what are companies really doing to secure remote working for employees and to really update and improve their security measures as far as crisis response efforts are concerned, particularly?
Never in the history of cyber hacking per se, there has been a clear division. Hence there are two different set of attacks. One which is coming in commodity zone, which you are saying, which you have mentioned, which is end user tech, mostly private info carrying on, and then hackers try to indirectly create a corporate threat. But the other one, which is fierce and ferocious, is the one which is in the industrial and specialized domain, mostly nuclear plants, defense aircrafts, oil rigs. They are far more complex. The first one, which is in commodity zone, can be handled, through proper monitoring, VAPT, and all those kind of stuff. If you have a strong knock and SOC, then you can do that. The second one is a challenge where, and especially if you have equipments which have been, manufactured outside of India, those are the ones which are a real challenge, and most large companies are grappling with that challenge.
Right, right. All right. And, as everything goes virtual, we are also experiencing a shift of, a new security model. And Nilesh, if I can ask you about remote security operations, how do you see the new age security operations center evolving? Would you say that the virtual SOCs are here to stay even beyond the pandemic?
So, Mridhu, virtual SOC has been evolving over the period of time, and we call it the SOCs whose backbone has been SIM solutions. They have evolved. SOAR platform has come in. They call it next generation SOC solutions. But the expectation from those SOC has changed now, and those next generation SOC, which we call it now, are now designed not only to do a 24/7 monitoring, not only to give you a high alert, early alert on what's going on, but they are expected to give you alert even before you see some attack patterns developing, which means you are supposed to identify that something going to go wrong 2 months or 3 months down the line. And that's where this involves analytical capabilities, AI capabilities, ML capabilities, and they are all built around into one next generation SOC solution, which actually gives you predictability on what's going to go wrong probably few months in advance. And that's the difference between what we have seen earlier. All the SOC operation where, like, you see something going wrong, some attack is already happening, and you say, oh, this is the attack happening. You inform the security team and they start taking action, or they start taking remediation. Those are the hygienes now, basic things. If you can't do it, you don't need to have a SOC. But those virtual SOCs are now designed to make sure that you can give predictions for what's going to go wrong in your environment.
Right, right. And, these are tough times for all kinds of businesses. They are very unprecedented times. Shubhajit, as far as the CIO is concerned, there is a double-edged sword this year, especially because there is a recession and yet technology investments need to be increased. You need to get more bang for the buck, if I may say so. So, how are CIOs or chief security officers going about reallocating their technology funds at this point in time?
Well, budgets for security has been always a tough negotiation. But this is specifically the time when we had to go back and use the lens of prioritization and the Pareto. So what is the top 20% of the risk I am exposed to, or what is my risk appetite, and trying to mitigate that particular risk as opposed to trying and managing the entire spectrum. So that has been the angle of prioritization we've been adopting. Every organization is very different. So specifically in the COVID time, it was important to do a realistic threat assessment and understand who are these threat actors. And depending on that, what is their modus operandi, what kind of vectors you're experiencing, depending on your own unique setup, and then fine-tuning those controls. It also means to make a very intelligent decision about what is your need versus what you want and what your desire is. And consciously, we've been trying to look at a solution and onboard them, one which not only delivers a primary control but also has a secondary or a tertiary control as well. That ways you definitely make you get bigger bang for your buck.
All right. So while we are talking of investments and investing in security, Ravi, we've also been seeing the rise of digital forensics in recent years. While these were earlier used by authorities to look for evidence against lawbreakers, we're also seeing increased usage of digital forensics by IT security and legal teams of businesses. Is this an effective route for fraud detection? What do you think? And what are some of the challenges that are associated with digital forensics in particular?
Digital forensics, Mridu, was never seriously a part of a corporate per se or a corporate structure. Now, especially with the first part, which is work from home and bring your own device kind of thing, somehow corporates have been pulled into understanding of digital forensics. Fundamentally, majorly globally, there are three kinds of forensics, which are accepted. Network forensics, I don't think corporates are equipped to do that in terms of intrusions or the jurisdiction of that intrusion. So they depend upon someone who is outside. Data, for the structured data, well, corporates are equipped, because most of them understand, their tech stack and all this stuff. Unstructured data, and Nilesh mentioned, machine learning part of thing. It's something which is, again, it can be a boon, but it can complicate things, especially when crypto and other things are involved. And the last one is something where most organizations are putting a lot of attention. It's the simplest one, which is your mobile-based or mobile device-based forensics, where if you have a case, then you have to understand the recovery of digital evidences and all this stuff. So the third area is the simplest one, where everyone is thinking about, but the most dangerous one is the network forensics one, mostly related to intrusion and finding out the jurisdiction of that particular intrusion, where still a lot of work has to be done and a lot of help corporates will require now and in future.
Right. And Nilesh, like many of you earlier said, attackers are always looking for quick ways to steal data. Traditionally, the whole detection and response approach was very, very reactive. Would you say a proactive approach like XDR works better in today's environment? How does it help organizations?
So far, all the time, most of the investment has been done on making sure that you have firewall in place, an antivirus in place, an IPS in place, all those devices which gives you protection and gives you false feeling of you're already protected, nothing going to happen. And we always advocate in today's time, when you open up your boundaries, you're moving on cloud, your employees are working from home, you have to assume that you are going to get compromised. There are someone who's sitting behind the wall and watching you and waiting for opportunity to get inside your network. So your solution should be with an assumption that you're already compromised. And do you have a solution which is doing a continuous monitoring on what exactly is going wrong in your environment, and doing correlation and telling you whether it's going to give you forecast on this is the sign that I might be under surveillance by the attackers and they are waiting for an opportunity. So if you have those kind of solutions in place, you probably have a good chance. And that's where the XDR is just a new jargon terms that security vendors is just talking about correlating all the security entry points and giving you some sense of what exactly is happening in your environment, from your email, from your network, from your endpoint, making sure that they're all working together, they're not working in silos. And then you are using some analytical tools to give you some idea on what exactly is happening. And that's what is all XDR all about.
Right. And talking of silos, Ravi, like Nilesh said, a lot of data in companies also rests in silos, departmental silos, functional silos, technical silos, a lot of which lack interoperability as far as technologies are concerned. So, in this scenario, how should an organization draw out a comprehensive cybersecurity plan for the future?
Uh, there's no straight answer to that. But certain things, which any corporate can do right. One is ensure that external threats are reduced, bare minimum, because there is a commonality to that. I'm talking about a generic sense in terms of corporate systems. I'm not talking about specialized one, which I will just spend a little bit time later on. So external threats. I think that's the weakest part, and both Dave and Nilesh hinted on that. That's just because boards or others, they don't understand the complexity of the perimeter. They are not willing to give that particular budget. But if you stop that particular threat, then at least the data loss and the financials of data loss is reduced tremendously. Others are in terms of what kind of checks and balances which you have to do, at a code level if you're writing your own code, which I don't know how to do that. You should have set of standards, but that's a lame reply. Everyone says that you should have a checklist and all this stuff. That comes with discipline and the quality of developers. But the other stuff which you can have, which the platforms which you buy or out-of-shelf products which you buy, keep them updated, keep them patched, make sure your VAPT is an actionable report, take it seriously. Okay. Those are the simple, common sense, practical things which any organization can do without even spending much budgets on them. But external one, I think especially in India, almost everyone has to do more in terms of spend and ensuring that their perimeter is secure.
Right. And through the pandemic, and in fact, a little before the pandemic also, we've also been seeing the increasing use of cloud across organizations of all shapes and sizes, across sectors. Shubhajit, as a global organization, give us a sense of your incident response strategies that you've put in place, particularly where cloud is concerned. And, as is with human health, I think even with cyber health, prevention is better than cure. So, at Dr. Reddy's laboratories, how are you strengthening the good health of your security measures?
Yeah, so cloud brings in a lot of interesting perspectives, and cloud is always a shared security model. So the myth of there are two polarized views of cloud. Either one line of thought is it a belief that put everything on the cloud and everything is going to be secured by default, which is definitely not true. And the second, the train of thoughts is don't use cloud because you're going to lose your control. But then cloud, if there's a robust strategy for cloud adoption, it can do wonders. We've been a cloud first company for the last couple of years, using mostly different kind of clouds, different deployment types as well. We have kind of integrated our incident response plan with every cloud instance we manage, so to speak. So and cloud is like an a la carte menu. You got to pick and choose what you want to order in terms of the security services and the product which you want to bake into your workloads. And that is the way we have built a homemade solution by which we dynamically monitor every cloud workloads in terms of configuration, in terms of compliance. And there's a team which takes a look at it 24/7. Now, the true value of cloud is not only realizing the elasticity or the rapid deployment, but also in the value of it. If you end up spending more in cloud as opposed to your on-prem data centers, then there's no point in going to the cloud, right? But from the security perspective, what we have done is a very seamless integration, rapid monitoring. Most importantly, if there's a SaaS or a PaaS kind of a setup where I don't have a control of the entire infrastructure, am I being able to contractually bound my cloud service providers to be able to bring in the same standard of incident monitoring and response is what something which is very important.
Right. I like that analogy that you used of cloud being an a la carte menu. And Nilesh, that's what a lot of companies around the world have been doing. They're exploring hybrid cloud, some of it public, some of it private. What can companies do in this environment to really secure their cloud architecture? And how crucial is it to have agility as a key component of cloud security?
One of the things I love about this topic is like they've put it very, very correctly. There are very different views. There are people who say cloud is completely secure, which is not true, and there are people who say cloud is not secure at all, which is not true. The reality is unlike like every other platform in IT industry, as long as you're in connected world, either on premise, virtual, private cloud, connected cloud, IoT, wherever, as long as you have a connected world, you have a threat, right? You are going to be observed and under the attack. But if you understand cloud architecture properly, you may avoid it. And let me give you one statistics, very, very simple one. 40% of the cloud related attack happens because of simple misconfiguration, right? And AWS is very popular in this part of the world, and AWS launched around 70 new services last 2 years. So last 10 years, they launched 100 services, but in last 2 years, they launched 70 plus services, which is a lot of services, and most of them are very popular. And then comes this pandemic, wherein people started using cloud like crazy. And even before they understand the complexity, even before how they understand how this to be deployed, they started using. So misconfiguration has been the biggest culprit why cloud is getting compromised. Second to that is, of course, the instances, the vulnerabilities that exist with the applications and data you put on the cloud. And my suggestion to most of them is, when you are deploying in cloud, make sure, number one, you have a cloud security practice and guideline available. You don't go on cloud till the time those practice or those policies are implemented. Number two, you have a regular audit and health checkup done in the cloud. There are best practices available from NIST. A lot of organization gives you best practices, check on those best practices. And third, have a solution deployed which can give you seamless integration either on DevOps environment, container environment, public cloud or instance environment, and make sure that you have a visibility. So if you do these three things very basically, you probably will be having a better chances of not getting compromised.
Right. And Ravi, can I ask you to weigh in as well? There is also a rise in hyperconnectivity of people, of processes, data, objects, all of that getting linked to the internet. More and more critical data is being stored that related to our health, our finances, etc., on cloud. So how do organizations then ensure end-to-end security, particularly as cloud as a technology becomes more and more mainstream?
Mridu, there are four mistakes which companies have done, and most of them still continue to do, when irrespective of all the practices they must have built and all the guidelines and specifications. And there are four mistakes which continue to happen, and that basically puts that concept and challenges that concept. Number one, network segmentation of cloud, and this is a little bit technical. Network segmentation of cloud is a very different ballgame altogether. Most CIOs and CTOs still try to segment network on cloud like they will do it for a normal data center based kind of thing. That is one place where most of them go wrong. Second thing is cloud-based access controls. Okay, has to be crystal clear. You cannot get away like everyone because it's a semi-controlled shared environment. Third one is that which you have pointed out. Most critical applications, if they have been put onto the cloud, they are using compute at a rapid rate. Hence, they must be in a multi-tenant mode. That's the assumption I'm making. And if you are doing that, and if there are critical applications with the financials related to it, then liability becomes very critical. And if those cloud are multi-cloud environments, be very, very clear about liabilities. Include your legal teams more than operational teams. And architecture literally dictates the liability and the legality of that particular cloud. These four things, if you set up right in a cloud environment, I don't think any organization will fail from the at least from the infosec perspective, if it is a cloud computing architecture.
Right. Shubhajit, can I ask you to weigh in on this one? People and leaders are crucial to building a very successful security roadmap for any organization. So has security now become a boardroom topic rather than something that rested with IT teams earlier on? And what kind of synergy is needed between the top management, the functional leaders, security leaders, to really build this whole culture of cyber risk management that we are talking about?
Well, security is definitely a board agenda. Our board is very, very security conscious. In fact, they kind of give us things to do, which even we didn't want to do at one point in time. So they are more security conscious. They understand their risk. They're ready to weigh in and let us do our thing. So, which is a good part of it. I think security as a culture is a very tricky thing to do. On one hand, the expectation from the information security teams is the fact that don't be the guy who throws a spanner into everybody's plan, right? You be the facilitator, you be the enablement function. On the same time, you cannot afford to lose out on a monitoring which can cause a breach. So it's a very, very fine, balance you got to walk. And that is where I have seen a couple of success stories where we've been able to appoint security officers from specific business units or a specific geography, and kind of shift some amount of accountability to them. Said, hey, look, this is your prerogative now. We do extensive leadership talk so that it is made visible, and absolute lot of sponsorship from the senior management coming in that security is something which is very crucial. We have built a lot of risk-based monitoring programs as well. While we want to balance it, unnecessarily we don't want to intrude on somebody's privacy, but we also want to balance on the flight risk or the high risk individuals with different kind of accesses. So effectively, whatever we do, we kind of weigh it out into 4 different kind of risk treatment methods. Either I have a choice to remediate it, either I have a choice to avoid doing it in the first place. Can I transfer the risk at all? Or if I don't have an option, I will ask the management to go ahead and, accept the risk as a last resort. But all 4 methods are equally important, and different situations, different time, different instances will kind of dictate what you want to lean on to.
Right. And Nilesh, if I can bring you in as well, what are your conversations with CXOs, with security leaders looking like at this point in time? And, what have you heard from them as far as building this whole culture of cyber risk management is concerned?
We did one such research with one of the third party globally, and that research was just published. And the research is about cyber persona of employee. And this is the part we miss out. We do a lot of employee training program, but we forget that each and every employee has a different personality altogether, and they behave very differently in different environment. And we actually see this 4 different kind of personality. Number 1 are those ignorant. Number 2 are fearful. Number 3 are conscious, and number 4 are daredevil. And this from the cyber security perspective. And what it talks about is every different individual, irrespective whether you have trained them on what to do, what not to do, depending upon their own personality, they behave differently. So there are employees, they know that even if I'm going to go on particular website, it might have a risk, but they love excitement. They like to try it out, and they still try and see how things are working out. There are people who are completely ignorant. They don't understand their accountability, and they don't understand the risk that lies in cybersecurity, and those needs training. But there are some people who are really, really fearful. Those are people who understand the cybersecurity risk, but they are not understanding the accountability part from their side. So these are the different personality. If organizations start learning, dividing their employees based on their persona, and have a different program. So we saw one of the organization here in Singapore, they have a program identifying those different people, and they have a motivation program, incentivizing program, and they divide people depending upon the different personality that they have, and they have a different incentive and penalty program to make sure that they are being much aware about what to do and what not to do.
Right. All right. We're completely timed out on this conversation. So I'm going to give all 3 of you 30 seconds each to tell me that, as we all embrace a new normal, we have seen that technology is pretty much taking over our lives, whether it's work, play, leisure, anything. Technology is really keeping us afloat at this point in time for sure. So as technology leaders, what is the big tectonic shift that you are foreseeing as far as cybersecurity is concerned, and how are you gearing up for that? Ravi, if I can start with you.
I think AI, and especially machine learning, will play a critical role both sides. It would be complex to hack, let's say, industrial equipment or a customized robot, versus it will become easier to decipher or to decrypt a commodity-based threat. I think next era, from a simplified to medium complex algorithms based on machine learning, will dictate both complexity and simplicity of cyber threats.
Right. Shubhajit?
So I think the future is going to be a shift from a device-based security to a data specific security. So there's a need to, a whole new shift toward looking at access. It has to be more conditional, it has to be more contextual, and less device-based or people-based. Because it's all device agnostic. You don't know who's coming from at what network, using what device, but still accessing your data. So I think that's the shift which I'm looking at.
Right. And Nilesh, final word to you. What is the big tectonic shift that as a leader of cybersecurity you're preparing for?
All the CIOs and CISOs are looking at, number one, they're looking at visibility, a better visibility from the detection point of view, and that's AI and ML bringing it, as Ravi spoke about it. They are looking at consolidation of number of security solutions and vendor they have. They can't have 25, 30 people. They are looking at 10 to 15, maximum 12 people, 12 different security vendors, and XDR is bringing that consolidation shift. And third is integration. They want to make sure that those solutions don't work in silos. And open API-based architecture is bringing that shift. So open API-based architecture, SDR, AI and ML, these are the three technologies driving consolidation, integration, and visibility shift in security.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Forbes India and sharing those very, very valuable insights into the future of cybersecurity. That's a wrap of this special conversation. News and updates continue on Forbes India. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Forbes India presents Future of Cybersecurity, powered by Trend Micro.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.